Yes, this is John G. Sutton, Tales from the Jails. I'll talk a little bit about the dispersal system in HM prisons. I believe it was 1968 there was a report called the Mountbatten Report into the dispersal or the use of high security prisons for Category A inmates, because there was a build-up of Category A inmates, that's prisoners who have committed crimes of extreme violence or threat to society, and the population of Category A inmates in the prisons was building up, and the Mountbatten report recommended that there should be a huge prison built that he called the Vector, Earl Mountbatten, who wrote the report, and that this be used to house the Category A inmates. The idea of Vector was that it would be on a remote location, possibly a Scottish island, where it wouldn't be particularly easy, particularly difficult. It would be particularly difficult for the inmates to escape, but this would be a high security unit built specifically for the dangerous, violent Category A inmates. And it was subsequently decided by the government that that wouldn't be implemented, that they would use what's known as the dispersal system. Now, the dispersal system means that certain prisons are nominated as Category A prisons, and that they hold Category A inmates, or they have a section designated or units designated to hold the Category A inmates, and they're all over Britain. The problem with that is that they're mixed in with the Category A inmates are Category C inmates, Category B inmates, and that these people, when you have certain types of inmates, such as inmates who are extremely radicalised, like I think one's called a BDZ, that's the maniac who blew up Manchester Arena, killing 30 odd people or whatever it was. Disgraceful. He's in prison now, in a dispersal prison. I believe it's Belmarsh. Yeah, there's a programme on Belmarsh on the May the 18th, which I believe is this evening. Yeah, you can see that's about prison officers being attacked in prison. Now, when I worked at Wilmwood Scrubs and Strangeways, we're going back over 40 years now, but in the event that any inmate did attack staff, they were dealt with appropriately. Now, it seems from what this programme is going to say tonight, and from what I'm reading about this, that the authorities, the governors, or the governor at places like Belmarsh are appeasing the inmates, you know. So instead of actually deterring them from repeating such aggressive offences by administering instant justice, that's not happening. They're being advised. And somebody, listen to John here, somebody who is serving 55 years imprisonment with a minimum recommendation of 55 years, in other words, a whole life sentence virtually, is not going to be deterred by threats of further imprisonment. We go back, I'm not advocating we go back to the 1950s or early 60s when inmates could be flogged with the cat o' nine tails, which indeed they were. Frankie Fraser was flogged twice whilst he was serving terms of imprisonment, or that they be sentenced to a restricted diet of bread and water, which they used to get a loaf weighing £1 and sufficient water. That was all they got, no other food, no. That was a sentence that could be handed down to them by the governor. But we had governors in them days, like Norman Brown, who did not hesitate. If any inmate did or was foolish enough to attack staff, then unleash the dogs of war, because that's what happened. Yeah, I mean, I've been there and done it, and in strange ways, it didn't matter how big you were, how tough you thought you were, then you got it. Including the likes of what's his name, Paul Sykes. Yeah. I mean, I've heard Paul Sykes in his documentary saying, I spent 30 years whacking screws and policemen. Yeah, well, tried it at strange ways. It didn't work. He got whacked in the jacksie with a big needle. I know, I was that man. Listen, it isn't just that. It's the fact that they are being appeased. You know, they're not being dealt with. I mean, listen, there was, what was his name? An idiot in Manchester called himself Dominic Noonan. Yeah, he was on television saying he was too tough for strange ways. Too tough for strange ways. So all he was down the D1, stripped naked and thrown into a cell. That's how tough Dominic Noonan was. Yeah, swaggering around the streets of Manchester. Thought he was the recreation of Reggie Cray or something. So on documentary where Dominic Noonan is going to church, Catholic church. He was a Catholic, may still be a Catholic, yeah, a Catholic church, seeking forgiveness. And then when he came out, he said, well, we can get back to it now. I've just been forgiven all my sins. Yeah, imagine that, forgiving your sins. That's why I don't agree with the idea that your sins can be forgiven you. And me personally, I don't want my sins to be forgiven me. If I have committed sin, then I didn't do it accidentally. I did it on purpose, and me, I own it. Me, I did that, yes. Don't forgive me. It's what I am. I'm a sinner. I'm just like everybody else. And I haven't really done anything bad. I haven't hurt anybody, unless they needed it. Then I would. Of course, you would too. But listen, dispersal prisons, my opinion, don't work. Need a big vector, yeah, a major prison on an island, maybe something like Oban in Scotland or somewhere like that, where you stick them all in there, guards all over the place, 20-foot walls, and they can't get in or they can't get out without being extremely strict. And in the event that whilst you're in there you commit any further offences, then you go down into the dungeons and stay there for a bit. It won't do you any harm. It may bring you to your senses. But listen, watch that thing tonight on Belmarsh. You'll be appalled about it. Prison officers getting attacked and scolded by boiling water because they were doing their job, or they were doing what they thought to be the job. And you'll see the inmates saying, oh, well, these people are idiots. Yeah, they go there to do the work. They're not there to actually entertain prisoners. They're there to reasonably enforce the rules with a degree of leniency and understanding, but certainly not in there to allow themselves to be assaulted and attacked. And a lot of those people who are in there is no deterrent in offering them further imprisonment, so there has to be another step down. But there doesn't appear to be so at the moment. I believe that the next step down should be a massive prison called a vector, and that in the event that the dispersal prison proves unsuitable for you, because you're taking advantage of it, then you're taken on the ghost train. And I'll talk a little bit about the ghost train in a future video here. This is Tales from the Jails, and it's John G. Sutton. Maybe subscribe. Thank you very much.